Hello, welcome to another vlog. This one's relatively simple, so hopefully it won't take too long. Um, so I was thinking about it, and people tend to get very impressed. I always think it's slightly amusing that I'm bilingual. I am quite bilingual. I do speak German quite fluently. Not quite perfectly. I do have an accent, and I occasionally make grammar errors. But C1, like, I mean, I have a whole video on this, like, how good is my German? But most people can understand what I'm saying. So I was thinking, I've been here so long, I really feel like I could help other people just to get a few, like, basic phrases. So if you're interested in languages and just want a few basic phrases, that's where I'm going for today. But if you want to learn, like, the whole language, I would suggest taking a class. So I'm not going to try to do something like that, but I just thought it would be fun to do a few phrases. If you like this video, then I would actually suggest leaving me a comment below and give me a few suggestions of things you would like to learn how to say in the language, and I would be happy to make a part 2. So we'll see if there's interest. Anyway, let's get started. So the first phrase I could think of is extremely important to know is hello. And it's just natural basic greeting. Well, the nice thing is that in Germany, there is a very sweet little greeting that sounds almost exactly the same, and that's hallo. So just the difference in pronunciation, it's just spelled with an A. I'm going to put the words down below so you can read them. It's hallo, hallo. So also, if I'm answering the phone, I will answer hello, and then I'll say my last name. Like if your last name is Smith, it'd be hello, Smith, and it's just to let people know who's on the phone. Although I have to admit, almost nobody listens because I have kind of a long, relatively difficult to pronounce last name. So I still get people like, I'm looking for Michelle, and then they'll try to butcher my last name, and it's awful. I'm like, dude, I just said it. Whatever, it's okay. Sorry, rant over. So going back to hello, so that's it's a very neutral greeting. It's it doesn't really mean anything. You can also say hi. I think people just get that from movies, American movies. Hi. However, if you want to be slightly more formal, you can say good morning, good day, or good evening. So if you say good morning, it's guten Morgen, guten Morgen, and then if it's day, then it's guten Tag, and if it's evening, it's guten Abend. And so people will say those. Now, the one that surprised me when I first moved to Germany was every once in a blue moon, I would say hello, and somebody would say Mahlzeit. Mahlzeit? That means like mealtime? Like, why are people saying this to me? I'm very confused. And it turns out that when you talk to someone around the time when it's time to eat, sometimes they will answer with this greeting Mahlzeit. That usually means either they are going to lunch or coming back to lunch, or they think you are. So that's like the standard time when people would say that. But just in case you ever hear that, it's a little bit of trivia you can throw out to the people who are learning German. They probably don't know that if they've never been to Germany. Mahlzeit, that'd be a fun one. All right, the next phrase I would say is super important is my name is, what's yours? Yeah, what's your name? My name is, So my name is ich heiße. So you say ich heiße Michelle, and go ahead. I know they pronounce my name slightly differently. That's the way they pronounce it. They do it the French way, so don't stress. That's just the way they do it. I'm used to it now. But if you have a difficult, but in general, don't change the pronunciation of your name. If your name is a difficult name for Germans to say, just say it, teach them how to say it. They will appreciate that. So most Germans are pretty aware of other foreign names, so they're fine with it. I originally thought that I would have to like Germanize my name, make it like Michela or something like that. No, don't do that. Michelle. Michelle is fine. So ich heiße, literally means I am called. Some people will automatically want to like directly translate it as my name is, mein Name ist. Okay, number one, that's extraordinarily formal. And number two is that people just straight up don't say that. Um, like, unless the only time I heard people say it that formally is if you are calling someone like a company, like a bank, or like a doctor's office, and then somebody answers and they say, Doctor blah blah blah's office, and you say, "Hello," and then you say, "Smith, my Name," and then you tell them what you want. Now that's pretty common because they prefer people to introduce themselves on the phone. So, um, you know, so in that case, I would use the formal, but usually they would flip it around. I would say the name and then you would say my Name. I don't make this stuff up, so it's not a full sentence. I am aware of that. However, this is literally what people do when they are speaking. Um, so yeah, like that's how I would introduce myself if I was just talking to a group of people. If they ask me what's your name, then I might automatically respond with my last name if I know that they're going to be more formal and call me by my last name. But if I think that they won't, if I think that it's less formal, then I will just give them my first name. And since I'm on YouTube and I don't want to tell everybody my last name, then I'm just gonna stick with Smith for now. That's not my last name, but that's okay, you know. But yeah, so I can say Ich heiße Michelle, that's good enough. Anyways, moving on. But if you're saying Name, you're actually referring to your last name, your surname. So now, what's your name? That's a great one. So there are two possible ways to address someone. You can say, you can use Sie, which is formal, or you can use Du, which is informal. So you would use Du with a child or with someone you know well, or someone you're expecting to know well, like a colleague. And you would use Sie with like somebody in a professional setting, somebody who's over you, somebody who is elderly. That's just a show of respect. So if you're using Sie, you would say, Wie heißen Sie? Now, so considering you don't know the person's name, I'm assuming usually you will be saying Sie. However, that's not always the case. It's very funny when I notice people who learned how to ask this question from German classes because they will then go to the playground with their small child and ask a 4-year-old, Wie heißen Sie? No, you never use Sie with a child. Like children under the age of 18, even like 16, 14-year-olds, like you still use Du. Wie heißt du is the way you say it with children or people you're expecting to be familiar with, like colleagues. It depends on your work environment though. But in general, the places that I've worked, people duzen each other. They use du with each other. So, wie heißt du is informal. Wie heißen Sie is formal. Once again, I'm using heißen, which means to be called. So, I don't really think it's appropriate to say wie ist dein Name. Like you could say that technically, but nobody says that. I mean, literally nobody says that. So don't bother to even learn that one. Just say, Wie heißen Sie? Wie heißt du? So whichever one is appropriate. Anyways, please and thank you. That's a good one. Okay. So please is bitte. Yeah. So bitte, kann ich das bitte haben? Bitte. So it's like, can I please have that? So please, bitte. I think most people know that one. Thank you is danke. And you can say Dankeschön. That's just a little bit, it's just a little bit more formal. It's slightly, it's not necessarily nicer. It's just kind of the same. But it's just if you're feeling like you want to say a little bit more than just Danke. Dankeschön is fine. Now watch your pronunciation. Schön. It almost has a almost silent R in there. So if you're going to butcher it, don't say schon. Say schön. Like add a really strong R in there if you can't pronounce the O umlaut. Schön. It takes some practice. So that's my best advice on that one. If you're gonna butcher it in the direction of adding an R. If you try to take away the R and make it into an O, that's a different word. It makes you sound almost impatient because schon means already. So it's like, thank you already, sorry, So you see what I mean? So don't say schon if you can't say schön. Say schön, add the R to it. Go ahead and add it. And it's better than not having it. So that's my advice on that one. If you want to say thank you very much, the way you would say that is vielen Dank. So in that case, the word danke actually loses its E. And vielen means much. So you say much thanks. Vielen Dank. So, or many thanks. Much or many. I don't know which one it would be in that case, actually. Because they're kind of the same in German, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, you want to say, I don't speak German very well. That's a good one. So in German, when you're saying I don't speak a language, you don't use the word sprechen, which a lot of people use because it sounds like speak. It does mean speak. However, that's not how you say speak with a language. You say kann because you can a language in German. Like you say, I can this language. I can English, I can German. So you say, ich kann, and then you would say, like, I would say not so good, yeah? If you want to say, like, my German isn't very good, then you say, ich kann nicht so gut Deutsch, yeah? So Deutsch comes at the end, the language, it comes at the very end. So ich kann nicht so gut Deutsch. And they're kind of homonyms. They're very similar to what they are in English. So nicht is not, so, that's so, and gut is good. So ich kann nicht so gut Deutsch. Yeah? Does that make sense? Ich kann nicht so gut Deutsch. That's a good one for you. I'm sorry or excuse me. Those are completely different. However, I'm sorry is like if you did something wrong. If you came late to an appointment, yeah, then you would say, I'm sorry. Es tut mir leid. Es tut mir leid. So I'll have it written down here. So es is it. Tut is does. Mir is to me. And leid is like pain. So it causes me pain is basically the way that is said. And I think most languages have a similar way of saying that. I'm sorry. Es tut mir leid. So that's how you say that. Excuse me, though, is completely different. If you bump into someone, if you want to ask the time, things like that, then you would say Entschuldigung. Now that's a very long word, and it literally means don't blame me. Like don't blame me. Ent is like the D, like the prefix D, like declassified is not classified. So ent. Schuld is like guilt. And then the Gong is just like an ending. So Entschuldigung is like don't blame me. So that's a good way to say you're sorry for bumping into someone, or if you want to ask them the time or something like that, you say Entschuldigung. And then there are a couple of variations of that. So if you hear something that sounds similar, that's probably exactly what it means. All right. Can you repeat that? That's a good one. So, of course, once again, I have to teach you two different ways. Are you using du with this person or using sie? So, with sie, I'm assuming most of the people you'll be talking with is sie, since you don't speak the language yet. So, let's say, können Sie das bitte wiederholen? Können Sie, can you, that, bitte, please, wiederholen, repeat, wiederholen. wiederholen is the word for repeat. So können Sie das bitte wiederholen? So can you please repeat that? And in German, and in du, then you would say, kannst du das bitte wiederholen? So it's the same thing, it's just with the können conjugated for du. Kannst du das bitte wiederholen? Can you please repeat that? So you should really learn these, like memorize them. So goodbye, that's always a good one. I had a couple of different ways to say goodbye. I think the easiest one and the most like universally accepted is tschüss. And they'll say tschüss. It's spelled very strange, but it's almost pronounced like choose, yeah, except it's with an not voiced S. Tschüss. So tschüss, yeah. It does have a U umlaut. Don't be intimidated by it. You can pronounce it almost like a double O if you're having trouble. If you're having trouble. If you can pronounce it properly, please pronounce it properly. But the way you say it is tschüss, yeah? Like, it takes some practice, but I hope that makes sense. Otherwise, you might have heard Auf Wiedersehen. That literally means until we see each other again. So you would only say that... I really don't use it that much. I would say it if I was with a group of people that I'm expecting to see again soon, like literally, like we have another planned activity in, a short time. So, but it's just not used very often. So you have heard it. It is not incorrect, but it's going out of style, I would say. Although occasionally if you're on the phone and you want to say goodbye, you can say Auf Wiederhören. Auf Wiederhören means goodbye, like until we hear each other again. Literally is what it means. So it's Auf Wiedersehen is until we see each other again, and Auf Wiederhören is when we hear each other again. It's slightly overly particular in my opinion. I also don't use it. So when I'm on the phone and somebody says Auf Wiederhören, I'll just say tschüss. It's fine. It's fine. Just use tschüss. Some people say ciao. There are a couple of alternatives in different regions, but that's the one that's like generally used. Yeah. Oh, I need help. That's a good one. If you need help and you can't say it in the language of your country you're at, that's important to know. So, I need help. Ich brauche Hilfe. Ich brauche Hilfe. Yeah, you can also just say help, Hilfe, Hilfe, Hilfe. That's literally how people say that. So, yeah, it's a good one to know. Ich brauche Hilfe. Yeah, it's not too hard. Call the ambulance. That's a good one. I'm trying to decide if you want to like go the route of making a complete sentence out of this, or if you just want to be like yell out ambulance, call ambulance, you know what I mean? Like, because you could, people would get the message pretty quick, but like in an emergency situation, I'm just wondering if that's not a better idea. So if you want to say it in a complete sentence, and I'm assuming you're sitzen, using sitzen is the way you say that, with the person you're talking to, I would say, können Sie bitte einen Krankenwagen anrufen? But because that's so long, I'm not even going to break it down for you because it's crazy. Like in an emergency situation, you would never use a sentence that long. I would just say Krankenwagen anrufen. Krankenwagen is ambulance. It literally means sick car. It's a sick car for sick people. Anrufen is the way you say to call. Yeah. So Krankenwagen anrufen. In an emergency situation, that is how I would say it. If you wanted to say it about the police, exact same thing, just replace Krankenwagen with Polizei. If you want to call the fire department, you just replace Krankenwagen or Polizei with Feuerwehr. Feuerwehr anrufen. Feuerwehr. Yeah? Or Polizei. Or Krankenwagen. Yeah? Like these are really good things to know. Where's the bathroom? It's a good one. Okay. Now, in German, as in many, many languages, instead of making this really strangely, like, roundabout way of saying, I have to pee, they will just use the word toilet. Where is the toilet? And wherever the toilet is, then that's where they would go. They would say, wo ist die Toilette? Now, toilette is a French word originally, which is why it almost has a W sound at the beginning, toilette. Okay, I don't make this up. This is how it's pronounced. So it is, they take the French word and kind of Germanified it. Some people don't say toilette, they say toilette, which is fine. So you can choose either pronunciation, whichever one you like the best. But I've heard both, so just be aware. The word originally came from the French. So, wo ist die Toilette? Another kind of relatively like polite way of saying it without mentioning the word toilet if it really bothers you that much, which it does to some people, I guess. But, when in Rome, is the word WC. Now, that is literally 2 letters. WC stands for British water closet. Yeah. So the WC, they don't ever say water closet though. They say WC, and they say it in German, WC. Wo ist das WC? Yeah. Wo is where. Ist is das, the WC, water closet. Yeah. Wo ist das WC? Wo ist die Toilette? So whichever one you prefer. However, you will then have to understand their response. So I'm not sure if that's the best advice I have. How much does this cost? Well, that's an easy one. Okay. Wie viel kostet das? Now, this is a phrase that I've used a bajillion times, so it's totally super common. So go ahead and use it. Wie viel is how much. Kostet, does this cost? Yeah. Das is this. So wie viel kostet das? So it's a good one for you. Yeah, learn your numbers 1 to 100. That is a little bit difficult because in German, once you hit 20, then 21 is then 1 and 20, and 22 is 2 and 20, 35 is 5 and 30, etc., etc. That takes some practice. So I can teach you the numbers. Eins, by the way, they start counting with their thumb. Eins, zwei, drei, vier, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Ja. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And then it gets interesting. 21, 22, 23, yeah, 24, 25. And then all you really need to know from then on is the large numbers, the whole numbers. 20 is 20, 30 is 30, 40 is 40, 50 is 50, 60 is 60, 70 is 70, 80 is 80, 90 is 90, and then 100. Yeah. So if you give me any number in the middle, 24, 24, yeah, 47, 47. Yeah, it takes some practice. You really have to get it going. And even today, I still have to pause a second when I'm writing down numbers if somebody gives it to me in twos, like 43, 48, 89. Okay, and I'd have to think about what that means. That's okay. What I did before I moved countries is I would practice every day to count to 100. So every time I took a shower, I would just count out loud in that foreign language to 100 until I was super comfortable with the numbers. I did this in French and in German, and it worked both times. This is a great way to get used to just saying the numbers and getting used to what the numbers mean. It just takes practice. And numbers are basically something you will always use in your head in your native language. It's just like you don't not understand them after you've been there for a long time, but it doesn't mean that you naturally want to use them. So that's just my opinion. You can have a different opinion, but also here's a great one. Do you speak English? Können Sie Englisch? Kannst du Englisch? Yeah, like können Sie? Yeah, once again, can you? And then English is just English. That's pretty easy. Können Sie Englisch? Kannst du Englisch? If it's a child, although it's not very likely that you won't know that at that point. Yeah. So those are a few phrases. I'm not claiming that this is a list that is completely exhaustive. First of all, language is very large and it changes. It is influenced by so many different areas that it tends to change over time. So even if I tell you this today, in 10 years, there might be a few phrases that are different. Although it probably won't be a full structure of the language. So just FYI, it doesn't change that fast. But I hope you learned something today. Leave some phrases down below you wish you knew how to say, or anything that you want to know what means. I'd be happy to help you out. And I hope to see you in the next vlog.